The Locked On Podcast Network presents the College Sports Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in college sports. From our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The College Sports Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in college sports.
The Miami Hurricanes have just landed the top recruit in the entire country.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes.
I woke up this morning expecting Jackson Cantwell to be a Georgia Bulldog. When I had my lunch today, I was still expecting Jackson Cantwell to become a Georgia Bulldog. The feedback coming out of Coral Gables was not positive. And I owe an apology, I think, to Steve Wiltfong at On3 Sports. I probably owe a few apologies to Pete Nakos at On3 Sports, because from last night into this morning, when Wiltfong started talking about, hey, there's some Miami buzz, Miami's not going away here, I'm like, okay, Steve, yeah, you're trying to sell some subscriptions, you're trying to play up the drama just so he can dunk on us and pick Georgia, and the Georgia fans can dunk on the Miami fans. And then lo and behold, the Miami Hurricanes were able to chip away at Jackson Cantwell until the final hours, because, yeah, around 1 o'clock, 1:30, you started to get the predictions. Pete Nakos puts in the RPM prediction, the On3 version of a crystal ball for Cantwell to become a Hurricane. Steve Wiltfong joins Nakos in putting in the RPM for Cantwell to become a Miami Hurricane. And, folks, you have, of course, best offensive line coaching in the country with Mario Cristobal as your head coach, which also makes Miami probably the most offensive line-centric program in the country, and his excellent tag team partner when it comes to coaching up the offensive line, Alex Mirabal. And a comment we did hear from Cantwell, night before his decision, was that he believes Alex Mirabal is the best offensive line coach in America. And Cantwell decided Miami was the spot for him to develop, and Miami is the program that gives him the best chance at success. Jackson Cantwell, why is he the number one rated recruit in the country? 6'7.5", 305 pounds, 305. Welcome to the 305 to every one of those 305 pounds of Jackson Cantwell. He is an absolute mauler. He is polished. He will probably become a starter at Miami next year. We'll talk about how that could very well happen for him. He's also a track and field stud. This guy is going to be setting records. He has, Olympic potential, shot put, discus, javelin. Both of his parents, his mother and father, are track and field former Olympians. And the track and field connection is why a lot of folks thought, up until a few weeks ago, that maybe Oregon could have the edge, because Oregon, out of his finalists, Miami, Georgia, Oregon Ducks, Ohio State, Oregon has the best of the track programs among those. But bottom line is, this is a football decision. Football is what's going to make Jackson Cantwell money at the collegiate level, and of course, money at the professional level, because you can't make money in track and field the way that you can make it when it comes to being a football player. Top offensive tackle in the country, considered to be a generational talent at offensive tackle. So the opportunity that Cantwell has at Miami, timing, folks, is also super important, okay? Because right now remember, Jackson Cantwell, class of 2026, he is going to be stepping on campus at Miami, likely January of 2026 as an early enrollee. 2026 football season will be his debut, his hello to college football. Right now in 2025, Miami has an established right tackle starter in Francis Mauigoa, Big CC, probably a future first-round NFL draft pick. And Miami has an established starter at left tackle in Markel Bell, probably, hopefully, a future NFL draft pick coming up in less than a year's time. So for Jackson Cantwell, the timing of those two who are on the team now and will likely both not be on the team a year from now, he is going to have two openings and an opportunity. I see Cantwell, and most folks do, it's probably more of a right tackle than a left tackle at the next level. I'd be good with him at either spot. He's so big, he could probably play both at once. But Jackson Cantwell will have the opportunity with CC Mauigoa off to the NFL in less than a year, that Cantwell is going to have that opening. Every spot has to be earned, but you could be looking at the right tackle, starting right tackle at the University of Miami in just over a year. That's Jackson Cantwell. And we know a big part of his decision criteria, in addition to who's going to develop me, which is why he chose the coaching combination of Cristobal and Mirabal, but also Cantwell, he wants to be able to play right away. Now, that's something, he probably would have been able to accomplish just about anywhere he went. Like, I'm not going to say Cantwell doesn't slide into the starting lineup at any of his other finalists, but it's certainly the case at Miami, and the other factors were also there for him. And, you follow the visits, right? It's been a little while. It's been over a month and a half probably since Cantwell was on campus at Miami, but made several unofficial visits to the U, including a visit during spring football that had folks in Coral Gables so hyped up that, when he kind of condensed his decision timeline and you thought, hey, he's probably going to announce in April, that was going to be a thing for a while. Miami was seen as the school having the big edge, right? But then he postponed his announcement to May 13th today, took a last-second trip to Georgia, an unofficial visit, a couple days before his decision, and all the trends had been going in Georgia's favor, right? And there also was a time in late April when it looked like Oregon was starting to trend for Cantwell. So you went in a short period of time from, hey, watch Miami here, Hurricanes are in the lead, to, oh no, maybe it's the Oregon Ducks in the lead, to, oh, Georgia is definitely in the lead. And the predictions were coming in left and right in Georgia's favor. And then day of, just a few hours before the Cantwell decision, you start to get these predictions flipping in favor of the University of Miami. Now, I know that I've talked about a lot of reasons why Cantwell to Miami makes sense from a coaching, development standpoint, an opportunity standpoint. Another thing that's important to Cantwell is academics. And, Miami, compared to the larger schools that he was also considering, smaller, more intimate class sizes. I don't have all the academic rankings in front of me, but we know Miami is a strong academic institution, a really nice, enjoyable campus. Cantwell seemed to enjoy the time he spent down in South Florida. So those are factors as well. And then I know if any Georgia Bulldog fans have found this episode, you're saying, what are you talking about? Coaching? Development? Son, they dropped a bag for you guys. You're going to want to talk about the money. Listen, I don't know for sure what Miami's offer was from Kane's Connection. I don't know for sure what Georgia's offer was, Ohio State, Oregon, anyone else. I mean, Oregon, they got plenty of money. They got that Nike money up there. I can certainly say that, when Miami identifies a priority, and when you're talking about, a program like the Hurricanes that prides themselves, as Mario Cristobal does, in building impeccable offensive lines. I mean, a few recruiting cycles ago, 3 cycles ago, Coach Cristobal and Mirabal were able to land 2 of the top offensive tackles in the class of 2023 in Cece Mauinoa and Samson Okunlola in the same class. Miami heavily pursued Jackson Cantwell. Yes, Miami has a really good NIL situation, and I'm sure Miami's offer was competitive. Reports out there that Miami had a higher NIL offer than anyone else. But that's one of many boxes that Miami can check off for Jackson Cantwell. I mean, Cantwell, you talk about this university making him a priority. When he made his most recent unofficial visit to Miami, he got FaceTime. He got a meeting with the university president, Joe Echeverria, who's a big Miami sports fan. I don't think Miami's ever had a university president who's cared as much about sports as Joe Echeverria does. And he actually met with Jackson Cantwell. That's another way to make this young man feel like a priority.
There's nothing like the energy of a live game. Whether it's catching a last-minute Major League Baseball showdown or soaking up the excitement of an NBA matchup, finding great seats at a great price, though, that used to be a challenge until I found Gametime. With last-minute deals, all-in pricing, and the lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Plus, ticket prices actually drop as the beginning of the game gets closer, so you can score amazing seats at a great price. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime.
Boogie Fland announces that he is withdrawing from the NBA draft.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks.
News about Boogie Fland. You remember Boogie Fland, a Razorback point guard who was on the Razorback basketball team last season, came out of the gates pretty strong, was a true freshman, McDonald's All-American, and got hurt. Was able to come back a little bit in postseason in the NCAA tournament, but either way, announced he was going to the NBA, and that was that. Honestly, when that happened, I think everybody felt that it was a no-brainer. He was going to move on to the NBA draft. Razorbacks were going to look ahead and try to see about either replacing him or retaining somebody. We know that Arkansas has 2 really elite level guards coming in. It just made sense. And hey, if you want to go to the NBA and you want to try your hand at the NBA draft, you want to get drafted into the NBA, especially when you have a good opportunity to do so, make it happen. No harm, no foul, no issues. Do what you got to do. Well, then later, it was reported that Boogie Fland entered into the transfer portal. Even though he was still remaining in the NBA draft process, he just wanted to keep his options open. To which my understanding was like, well, okay, I guess that, do whatever you want to do. You have your options. You want your options to be out there just in case. You never know what happens. Maybe you want to see what all type of money is going to get thrown your way. There's just a lot of different reasons of what could end up happening. But then yesterday, he withdrew. Just took his name right out of the NBA draft process and the NBA Combine. He's going to play college basketball next year. Now, some of you may hear that and be like, oh, great. Well, hopefully we have room for him. I know we added some new guards and we got DJ Wagner coming back. But, hey, if this is something that Cal wants, then let's make it happen. Well, I'll just stop you there. He's not going to be playing for Arkansas next year. He's going to be playing elsewhere. Reports say that it will more than likely be Florida, although there are other possibilities. Some of his representation and people he's involved with is a former Gator, Mike Miller himself, and it seems to be the one that makes the most sense. Not to say that he's getting $7 million like some of the absurd reporting was before, but they're definitely a team that has it going on right now, considering they won a national championship, considering what they're doing and feeling right now. It would make sense, especially since they have a need there at the point guard position. But he averaged 13.5 points when he actually was able to play this past season, as well as close to 3.5 rebounds, but 5 assists, 38% shooting, and 34% from three-point distance, which is kind of a pretty crazy thing because 34%, nothing to, shake your head at, but 38% from the field in general, not exactly what you want to see. But he's a really good player. And now he's going to be moving on. And so the question becomes, why? So what happened here? Why would Cal, who seemed to have a good relationship with Boogie Fland, who seemed to like his game, to be very respectful of him, and to honestly just treat him really well when he decided to move on into the NBA, what happened here? Did Cal screw this up? Did Boogie screw this up? How did we get to this point? I think it's all very fair questions. But I also don't think it's anything that needs to cause alarm for anybody. Now, some of you are probably saying that I just will, no matter what, defend Cal at all cost. It's not necessarily the case. I have been critical of him. But I also believe that it would make sense to have Boogie Fland back on this team next year. Now, if Cal wanted him, I'd gladly take him. But if Cal feels like they are just fine with what they have right now, then I'm going with that too. I think about having DJ Wagner back on the team. I think about Darius Acuff, the new true freshman McDonald's All-American coming in. Say if you were only able, of those three players, of DJ, Acuff, and Boogie, of those three players, you could only keep two of them on the Razorback roster. You only get to choose two. Ask yourself the question, which two are you choosing? For me, my first choice would be DJ Wagner because of the experience he has, because of the leadership he has, because of the really high quality play that he can provide. Not to say he's perfect, but he definitely is somebody you needed to have and was one of the most important players to get retention from this past season besides Carter Knox, which we're still waiting on and hopeful for. But I would have chosen DJ Wagner. And with the other position, I would have chosen Darius Acuff. Not because Boogie Fland is a bad player at all. I am not saying that. But because I feel better and stronger about having a higher quality true freshman coming in Darius Acuff, who realistically should be a better scorer, combining him and teaming up with a very high-level, experienced, legitimate guard in DJ Wagner. I feel like that's the better formula. That's the better team. That's the better roster management that you want to have. That's just how I feel. But just because I would rather have those two players and not have Boogie does not mean I don't think he's a good player. Because I'm going to be honest, him going to Florida is a concern for me as far as how good he can be there, because he is a really good player. He's a player that can go into almost any roster, into any team, and be really good. Be arguably one of the best players that they have on the roster, arguably. But it's about fit. It's about something that makes sense. It's about where you're spending your money, who you're getting, who you're concentrating on. And I just don't know and don't think it would work very well if you had these two incoming freshman guards coming in with DJ Wagner coming back as well as Boogie Fland. I mean, you can't have too much talent on the team, but let's be honest, these are all 5-star players. All four of those guys, 5-star players, elite level players. Only one ball is going to be on the court. So I'm not trying to sit here and convince all of you that this is a big nothing burger and there's no whatever. Boogie can just move on and do what he needs to do. Because again, I think he's going to be extremely good at Florida. I think he's going to be a really good player at Florida. But it does look a little bit weird. It does look strange that on the surface, it was all about Cal sending off his point guard, his true freshman, go get into the NBA and go be great, young man. And all's well that ends well. And everybody was so excited for him and happy for him. And Cal even said, talking about when he was going to play in the NCAA tournament, he said about Boogie, he's like, he wants to play. The greatest piece of it was Boogie saying to me, I don't want to screw it up. I just want to help. And I said, well, you may play 10 to 15 minutes, but so what? He said, I'd be good. And I said, we may need you to play more. I don't know. But then I grabbed the team and he said, it's not really changing anybody's role or what's going on. We just have an eighth man. Like, I remember that quote and started thinking about, how happy I was and how proud I was of Boogie and the maturity that he had in that role. And I remember talking to him in the locker room in the NCAA tournament after games and just how he was very mature about everything and very open about everything. But I will say the final game that Arkansas lost to Texas Tech, it's never fun to go into that locker room and talk to players after a loss like that. It's never fun. It's actually pretty sucky, just to be honest. It's probably the least favorite thing of mine to do in my career, and what I do in covering the team is in those moments. But I'll say this, Boogie didn't even know he was there. Zipped up his whole hoodie, had it greased down. He was on his phone, had his headphones in, wasn't going to talk to anybody. And I took that as somebody who was going to be going to the next level. And that's fine. But it's just really unfortunate that it didn't play out that way. I don't know if we'll ever get the real story of what went on or what changed his mind. What was it, something that Florida offered him, whatever it was. Why did Arkansas not pursue him? There's just so many questions that go into it. But to me, it all just seems weird. It seems weird, but it's going to be okay. I'd like to know more, but if I don't, I'm going to be fine. It's just an interesting thing. Arkansas's got to get some scoring, though, man. They got to find a way to get some scoring in there. I need some more three-point shooters. I need more than that.
The NBA playoffs roll on, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action right now. When you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. FanDuel makes betting easy, whether it's picking your favorite team or diving into player props. From three-pointers to steals to assists, there's so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. You can lay a little something in celebration of the Celtics' downfall, if you would be so inclined. Of course, not celebrating Jason Tatum's injury. That's horrible, and you feel terrible for him. FanDuel has Boston favored by 4.5 points over the Knicks, but without Tatum, things could look a little different than the spread indicates. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today.
So it looks like Michigan State just added their last player out of the portal.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Another addition out of the portal for Michigan State football, and yes, it is another defensive secondary player. My goodness gracious, we went into the spring window saying that, yeah, they're going to target another guy, maybe two. Wow, this has been a lot in the spring window for the defensive secondary. And before we get to, the referendum of what all this means, and are they really telegraphing something to us with how much secondary depth they've been adding? Well, let's learn about the new guy right here, Devynn Cromwell, Texas Tech last year. Now, this was his only year playing NCAA football. He was actually playing football over in Ontario. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But last year at Texas Tech, Devynn Cromwell played in 9 games, had an injury that's shortened his season last year, and he got 2 starts for the Red Raiders. Now, in those 2 starts against Baylor and Arizona, he made the most of those 17 combined tackles in those games. Now, most of his snaps came from free safety, played a little bit of box safety, a little bit of nickel or slot corner, whatever you want to call that position. That's up to you, but primarily free safety. But again, just like other guys that we've seen here added in the spring portal, you're getting guys that can play some box, some free safety, some nickel position here. So clearly a point of emphasis for the staff to tidy up all the depth pieces for this spring. Now, to go into more of his stats here, he let up just 3 catches on 8 targets during the entire season. So not a massive sample size here. Or maybe he was just such a shutdown player when he was on the field that they only targeted him 8 times. We could be real with ourselves. I mean, he just wasn't on the field all too often. But when he was, and when he was targeted, hey, you know what? A little bit of a shutdown safety over there, Mr. Cromwell is. That's right. Pro Football Focus, we always like to point out these numbers when we talk about new players here. He graded out as a 62 overall, so not great shakes, but it's not like the worst you've ever seen either. It's pretty much what you're going to get in the spring portal, especially if you were in Michigan State shoes and you were just looking to add more of that D word, guys. We've been beating this word into oblivion, depth. This was always going to be the kind of players Michigan State was getting here in the spring. Anyway, like we said, last year was his only year in NCAA. This will be his one last year of eligibility remaining. And before he headed over to Texas Tech, yes, our friend of the North, he played at University of Guelph. That is part of an Ontario league where there's different Ontario universities that play football. And while University of Guelph weren't necessarily like the Georgia Bulldogs of, the greater Toronto area. They kind of struggled with him there, but that didn't stop Mr. Cromwell from making, I believe it was the 2nd-team all-star team in that league up there for Canadian football. So let's tabulate what this staff has done in just the spring portal window alone, and just in the defensive secondary alone too, guys. They added Tracy Revels from Bowling Green, played a lot as a true freshman down at Bowling Green. This is one of the guys I'm more high on. coming out of the spring portal cycle. You have Anthony Pinnis, guy that played high school football in Michigan. He was at UTSA just for the spring. After 2 community college stops, he will be a corner. Okay, that's where he projects to play at. And then not too long ago, I think inside the last week, actually, Dontavius Nash, he commits out of East Carolina. He played a little bit of corner down there for the Pirates, but recruited to play safety, a little bit of nickel here too. So that is 4 guys in the defensive secondary alone that were just added this spring. You want to add Malcolm Bell, Nijay Burt, Joshua Eaton. That is 7 secondary guys that were added in this whole offseason from other schools. And this kind of had to happen, especially for the corner position. That was a room that was completely gutted of anyone that played there, pretty much. You know, Chuck Brantley, gone. Ed Woods, gone. Jalen Thompson, gone. So you did have some returners there, Chance Rucker being one of them. But, yeah, you really had to have an overhaul at that position. But let's focus in on the safety/nickel position, because this is where we're going to get into, okay, are you over there wearing your Michigan State t-shirt? Are you a glass half full kind of Michigan State fan? Are you a glass half empty? Or are we just all looking at this a little too deep right now? We'll come up to that conclusion here after talking about the safety position, because right now seems pretty safe to say that pencil into your starting role, Malik Spencer, Nikai Martinez, especially going into this fall camp. Now, should someone else jump up and take a starting role away? Look, we like Malik Spencer, we like Nikai Martinez, but it's not like they'd be jumping over some first-team all-Big Teners. Like, every position group is pretty much up for grabs on the defensive side of the ball here. Now, you do have your younger guys behind Malik and Nikai. You have Justin Denson, a true sophomore, Armarion Smith, who got some solid production 2 years ago, didn't really play all too much last year. Same with Khalil Majid, who I thought, was a really solid depth piece. He had a shortened season. And then add that on top of Tracy Revels, Devynn Cromwell, Dontavius Nash. That's what you're looking at for the safety position. You want to go down to nickel. Some of the guys we named could possibly profile as a nickel, like Justin Denson. Could he be one of the guys over there? Tracy Revels, we've talked about, he could be a starting nickel position. Jeremiah Hughes, you want to pull a name in there too. Why not? So the room is getting a little full here with some depth. Now, if you want to read into everything, like every single little thing, and why not? Come and join the party here, because this is just what we do here. You can take all this in one of 2 ways. And by all this, I mean adding 4 depth pieces to the secondary after spring practice. After that, we were saying, after we have heard that, hey, it would be like 1 guy or 2 guys. But after X amount of spring practices, the staff felt it was necessary to add 4 depth pieces to the secondary. So here we go. Door number 1. This is if you're a glass half empty sort of person, you see that, and even though that you understand that, hey, you had to add some depth from the guys that you lost last year, you look at this and you're thinking to yourself, that's a lot more than we needed. This means that this staff is not sold whatsoever on who they have in that safety room or the nickel position. This is not good. They are kind of hitting the panic button here late. They are bringing in guys that, yeah, sure, come on over to East Lansing. There are snaps to be had here. Yikes. Or, guys, more sunnier. Okay, the clouds are going to open up behind this door here, because door number 2, hey, yeah, sure, you know what? They weren't completely sold on the secondary. They needed some more depth. It's because our receivers are just balling out so hard in spring. You can't believe it. They're making everyone in the secondary look so bad that our staff has to go out and get a few extra pieces late in the spring portal cycle window. Now, we had this conversation, not on this show, but another show I joined not too long ago, Can't Read, Can't Write, and one of the wonderful co-hosts there, Mike Jones, we were having this conversation about, is this like a concerning amount of secondary players added at this point? Have we gone to the other side of the threshold here? Because, this might be something. I don't know, but he brought up a great point. He rolled back the clock a little bit. 2021, when Xavier Henderson said during spring practice, I can't tell if we're just kind of bad on defense or if Kenneth Walker is truly this good of a running back where he makes everyone look bad. Is it possible that Nick Marsh is just making people look that bad? Is it possible that Omari Kelly out of Middle Tennessee State is just making people look that bad? Guys, very possible. Christian McCray, hey, behind door number 2 is the door I want to live behind. We're not going to get a concrete answer here, at least for a few extra months here.